without any further ado, let's get on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Now, these minutes of the previous meeting are already deemed passed unless anyone has any objections to them. So if anyone has any objections to them, please raise your hand with the reaction now, otherwise they'll be deemed passed. Okay, it seems though no one has objected to them, so these are deemed passed. Okay. We are now on to the elections of vacant councillor positions. So there are eight places for the pardon me, for the open places to council, and there have been 8 submissions. So if no one objects to these people, then they will be deemed allowed through, and they will have the place on council. So these people are Harris Qureshi, Tobias Lawrence, Kieran Cutting, Katie Smith, Caitlin Halfacre, Chloe Easterbrook, Sunil Roger, and Tim Rodaway. So unless anyone has any objections to these people going through onto the open places, and they'll be deemed assigned. So does anyone have any objections to these people on these places? Use the reaction if you do. Okay. Okay, that's deemed through. Now, the next part of this is the campaigns representative. Now, so far we've only had one nomination to the campaigns representative position. If anyone else would like to nominate themselves to the campaigns representative position, then they may do so now. Okay, it seems though no one wants to. So unless there are any objections to Aminah Saghir from going forward, then he will be deemed the new campaigns representative. So are there any objections? Okay, he is deemed the new campaigns representative. Now onto the ethics and environment representative. We've so far had 2 nominations, and that is Daniel Putterill and Chloe Thompson. This is therefore a contested role, so it will go forward to a vote via email afterwards, I believe. You'll be made more aware when the time comes. Are there any more nominations? Does anyone wish to nominate themselves to the role of ethics and environment representative? If you do, do so now, using the reaction. Okay, there have been no nominations. As it is a contested role, I will now give Daniel Putterill and Chloe Thompson an opportunity to speak for themselves. Daniel Putterill has said that he isn't able to make it to this meeting today, so he has given me a piece to read out for him on his behalf, unless Daniel has managed to make it today. So Daniel, if you have managed to make it, please please nominate yourself now. Oh, Tobias, you've raised your hand. How can we unmute Tobias? Can I do that? Okay. Right.
Yeah, I was going to say Elizabeth Mead is raising her hand, but it's on the screen rather than on the participants list.
Oh goodness, I am sorry. Elizabeth Mead, were you raising your hand to run for ethics and environment or campaigns rep?
Ethics and environment.
Ethics and environment, that's absolutely fine. Okay, well, if we can add Elizabeth Mead to the ethics and environment list, please. You'll be given an opportunity to speak on your behalf after Daniel and Chloe have. Now, Daniel Putterill, are you in the call? If not, I will read off what he sent me to read. Okay, I don't think he's in the call, so I'll read off what he sent me to read. Okay, now imagine as best as you can that I am Daniel Putterill. Hi there, my name is Daniel and I'm currently studying marine biology. Given that I have a passion for sustainability and a devotion to the health of our planet, I have loved reading over the NUSU climate action accomplishments from the last year and hope that we can continue and expand upon the incredible achievements of both students and staff last year, from implementing food waste management ideas all the way to encouraging fossil fuel divestment. Being able to represent the student body and voice the ideas of students would not only bring together a community of environmental advocates, but hopefully continue affecting an ongoing change in terms of how responsibly we live and how sustainably our lifestyles can become. During my role as head boy in sixth form, I was fortunate enough to be able to voice the opinion of our student body at an annual sustainability summit. Here, I discuss what could be done in the future to tackle local issues such as flooding, transport, and sustainable housing. Not only was this reported on and televised by the BBC, but also gained recognition from MP Steve Barclay. Harnessing the much needed media attention to these environmental issues deserve and how they can be responsibly dealt with in years to come. The ability to convey a line of communication between students and the university is vital, where my role as a lifeguard has been able to prepare me, given that I have needed to work well within a team and communicate effectively under pressure in demanding situations. As well, my experience as both a swimming teacher and maths tutor has allowed me to gain valuable knowledge on how to explain different ideas to effectively instill a concept so that it can be fully understood. A skill I feel is invaluable when communicating environmental topics, around the university. Once again, my passion for the health of our planet is reflected in my voluntary work in marine conservation in Indonesia, where I saw firsthand the effect of single-use plastics on marine life and its diversity. As a result, my desire to encourage a more sustainable lifestyle and create a less linear economy grew. What the university achieved last year in terms of E&E was incredible, and I hope I can be part of this year's continuation of building a more sustainable, ethical campus. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to hear back soon. Kind regards, Daniel. So that was the speech that was given to us to read from Daniel Putterill. Chloe Thompson, if you're in the call, we will unmute you and then you can give your speech if you are indeed in the call. In fact, can you raise your hand if you're in the call? Is Chloe Thompson in the call, do we know? Oh, we don't think Chloe Thompson's in the call. Okie dokie. Well, if Chloe Thompson isn't in the call, then we will give the last speech on this to Elizabeth Mead, who has so kindly nominated herself for the role. So Elizabeth, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Mead, and I have been an environmental activist since I was about 10 years old. I've been working at every school I've attended over the years.
Oh, Elizabeth, have you frozen? Has Elizabeth frozen for you as well? No one else is frozen, just Elizabeth.
Ratified last year.
Oh, and she's back. Elizabeth, did everyone else hear what Elizabeth just said? Because you froze for me. I'm really sorry if it's just been mine. I apologize for interrupting, but I think your screen froze.
Okay, I'm sorry about the screen freeze.
It's no problem. You can start again if you like.
Okay, I'll start again. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Mead. I'm studying chemistry in second year, and I've been passionate about the environment and ethics since I was 10 years old. Over the years, I've done a lot of student sustainability work with different organizations at various schools I've attended, and this year I'm the treasurer of the People and Planet Society, which I was also a member of last year when it was ratified. And this year, in this position, I would definitely want to promote not only school sustainability in terms of the small things that we can do on campus, but also covering larger issues of climate and social justice that focus on the human rights side of environment and ethics, because the environment is a human rights issue, and I believe that all students at our school should be able to study in an environment that accepts them and provides what they need.
Okay, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Okay, so you've now heard from 2 of the nominations. I have just been told that Daniel Putterill has just joined the call. Don't worry, Daniel. I have read out your speech that you sent us. Although, if you would like to say something very briefly, you are now welcome to. Although it will have to be very, very briefly.
Hi, no, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for reading out my speech. Yeah, like basically, as I said,
I think I think you've broken up as well. Did he break up for you, or is that just me? Yeah, I'm afraid Daniel's broken up. Although, thank you very much for nominating yourself, and best of luck to all. Oh, he's come back.
about the environment and sustainability.
Okay. I think we're going. This is a bit of a unknown territory now, but thank you very much for your nomination, Daniel. We really appreciate it, and best of luck to all people who applied. So moving on. That's been the election. Now for the steering committee report. Now you should have all received the steering committee report in one block. So it is deemed passed unless there are any objections. So if there are any objections, please make them known now, otherwise it will be deemed passed. Okay, it appears that there are no objections to that, so that is passed. Now we are on to the State of the Union report. So can I invite the President to give the State of the Union report, please?
Hello, everybody. First of all, I wanted to say a big welcome to everybody to the first council, especially to some of us who are just kind of getting into the swing of how council runs and works. So I was told in June that the summer would be relatively quiet apart from the stress of Freshers Week, but I suppose that was before a global pandemic, a cyber incident, and, well, everything else. Needless to say, the past 20 weeks, and yes, I have been counting, have been insanely busy. Primarily, we all worked with the university on the ways in which that we could reopen the university, but also manage flexibility should we need to go online. Sean and Charlotte are sat on University Education Committee, which is also known as UEC, fighting just about anybody that sits on UEC. They've been vocal advocates for reform of the personal tutor system, minimizing teaching on a Wednesday afternoon, allowing self-certification for bereavement on PECs, and generally fighting for the big student issues such as tuition fees for both home and international students. I think Sean is now the most well-versed person on all things tuition fees. Along with every other sub, apart from myself, because I didn't get the invite, I'm not bitter, it's fine. The office sat on the Student Experience Resilience Framework group, which worked at smoothing the induction process, creating social and study spaces, and generally creating a sense of belonging within the university, within the New South Wales community. I personally think that their work on SURF was invaluable. Hannah and Benta have been working to make sure that clubs and societies can run in the ever-changing U-turn climate that we now live in. They were running a virtual Freshers Fair to ensure that students can have access to clubs and societies, as we know how essential these are for the university experience. However, unlike every other year, they've been pulled into meetings left, right, and centre, with Hannah working on and chairing the COVID etiquette working group, the health and safety group, the reopening of King's Gate, and the study spaces group. Benta has been working closely with the international office because, if you didn't know, she's not from here. Don't know if you can tell by her accent or the fact that literally the first thing she says to anyone in any meeting ever. She's also been working with the university's Global Committee, Self-Isolation Working Group, as well as working on community relations in the Community Unity Group and Student ASB. I personally think it's categorically the most diverse work that any activity as an AU officer have ever done. Besides just offering me welfare from across the office, Nadia has been carrying out lots of work across the university and the union. As the EDI queen that Nadia is, she's been working on chairing 2 of the Race Equality Charter work streams, Inclusive Newcastle, working with Sian on the Closing the Awarding Gap group for BAME students, and more specifically Black students, alongside other work with the UUK and with Deputy Vice Chancellor Julie Sanders on the attainment gap. Nadia has also been working on creating an LGBTQ+ safe space and making LGBTQ+ training compulsory for counsellors at the university. She's also been working on creating a bursary scheme in psychology for BAME clinical psychologists, as well as spearheading the necessary EDI work that is taking place at NUSU that aims to make our students' union more accessible to minority groups. As part of World Mental Health Day, Nadia helps collate a multitude of resources for mindfulness that can be accessed on the NUSU website. I think we all need those resources every now and again. But in addition to all of this, she's been working on creating sensory packs for students with sensory needs, as well as helping me with our beautiful BAME Welcome Pack that can be picked up now on Black History Month campaign, Black History Matters. And we've been working on our part of a paper for the Vice Chancellor's Review Group, which assesses the legacy of Lord Armstrong. As if she wasn't already working on a lot, Nadia has been working tirelessly on a harm reduction campaign that aims at making the conversation about drugs and drug use less taboo. This work has already started manifesting in the amnesty bin that was located in NUSU and the drug and alcohol clinic that will be starting later on this month. She has been just inspiring to be around while she juggles all of this. And if you want to know more about the harm reduction work she's been working on, she put up a really good blog post on her NUSU page that I would really recommend everybody read. I personally didn't know that there was such a difference in the needs of postgraduate students, but Charlotte has definitely been educating me. She's been working hard on the needs of both postgraduate taught and postgraduate research students. She spent a lot of time to explain to the university on how the needs between these students differ and how to best cater for these groups. On top of educating the ignorant, aka me, she's been running a variety of postgraduate welcome events, from quizzes to virtual tours and very many coffee mornings with so many biscuits. She's been at the forefront of ensuring that postgraduates feel welcome and integrated into the Newcastle community. She sits on the PGR subcommittee of UEC and has been helping with the various PG student queries and concerns surrounding access to teaching, facilities and accommodation. She's currently working on the rights of PGRs as both students and teachers and demanding that they be treated fairly by the university, including sick pay and extensions to thesis deadlines. She's also working on a postgraduate wellbeing workshop, as well as PG-specific mental health campaigns, which should be coming up very soon in the next couple of months. In terms of student media, Ella's been working on rebranding the Courier, as well as how you run a print paper during a global pandemic. The Courier has had a facelift and shed the burgundy and rebranded to a lovely blue that is mwah. The website has also been getting the same treatment, but cyber incident, Nat was busy, fair enough, I suppose. On top of the rebrand, Ella's been working on creating an army of writers and editors so that someone can write the paper, which I've been told is an essential part. When this team assembled, Ella quickly got to work on how this team can get into the office with all the social distancing measures, and has managed to get a second office to ensure that the writers and editors have places to work. In a world where the news changes in the blink of an eye, the fact that Ella and her team have managed to stay on top of the news is amazing. In addition to keeping on top of the news section, she's also been working on expanding sections such as the puzzle section. It's really good, really recommend it. I do it weekly. And getting a new relationship section where you can find love, go on a blind date, however, invite us to your wedding. If you've not had a chance to pick up a copy of the Courier and you're on campus and are able to come on campus, I would recommend giving the paper a read. I've really covered a lot of ground here, and I think you're all probably really sick of my voice, but a lot of my work fits into a lot of what I've mentioned here, so I won't repeat all of it. As president, I've been trying my best to ensure that students are put in the best light possible, defending them from university meetings, city council meetings, and the regional and national press. I and the rest of the team will continue to be vocal advocates for students as they're kind of scapegoated through this global pandemic. We all personally think that the work of representing students has never been more important, and we will never stop being vocal in meetings about the rights of students. Thanks.
Thank you very much, President Shearer. That was the State of the Union. Now, the State of the Union is deemed passed unless there are any objections. So if you have an objection to the State of the Union, please make it known now, otherwise it will be passed. Okay, there appears to be no objections, so State of the Union is deemed passed. Right, we'll now move on to questions and mandates for the sabbatical officers. So I'm afraid, Dorothy, I am going to have to ask you to come back and start us off with the questions and mandates. Now, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for anyone who is in the council to ask questions to any of the sabbatical team. So in a moment, if you raise your hand, you will be unmuted and you will be allowed to ask any question you want to any of the sabbatical officers. So if anyone has any questions for any of the sabbatical team, please make yourself known now through the, please raise your hand through the reactions. We have one from Stephen Dawes. Stephen, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Howdy. Good evening. I was just wondering regarding second semester teaching, if hypothetical, I know it's quite annoying, we're in a position next semester where the university moves back to tier 2 teaching, etc., and the UCU ballots for strike action, what's the union's position on that going to be? Because we've been caught out a few times now and we never quite seem to have our reaction timed in students' interest, and I was hoping the current SABs might have an answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I think open that up, but I imagine that's probably most relevant to you, Dorothy. Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, so if the university were to move to tier 2 and fail to reach an agreement with the UCU, I think that we'd all come to council to ask, but I think Sean is probably better equipped to answer a question about education than I am.
Yeah.
Sean, if you would like to mute yourself and answer.
Yeah, so we've been very in close contact with the UCU with the news regarding strike action. I'm not going to say that strike action would never happen, because you can never predict something like that, especially as semester 2 might be a little bit different in terms of teaching, especially when we go down to tier 2. However, the university and UCU have completed talks and they've released a joint statement, which you might have seen, and I think that's placated a lot of the issues that were rising. If any strike action was to take place, we've kind of not got the inside track, that's the wrong way to say it, but we've been kind of in contact with the people who run the UCU branch in Newcastle, and they've been very willing to give us any information that's kind of going on, any upcoming ballots, things like that. If strike action was to happen, it would have to go to regional branch and then it would go to the national branch. So it would take quite a while to actually get it through to the point where it might not actually even happen within this year, never mind next semester. So I'm quietly confident that now the university and the union have completed talks that everything should be okay, but I don't want to jinx anything. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think we'd have enough time to prepare, and I would come to NUSU, possibly do a democratic vote on it, because I think that's the best way to kind of decide a stance from our perspective, because we want to keep council included. So I think if I keep my ear to the ground on that one, then we should be get a vote through in good time before the strike action was to actually happen.
I just wanted to add to what Sean said, that if we were to go to strike action, students are welcome to bring a motion to council trying to mandate NUSU to either support or not support the strikes. This has happened in previous strikes, and the ultimate decision made there was that neither motion passed, which meant there was a neutral stance. But obviously cohorts change, there's different opinions on strike, so we would kind of be mandated to follow whatever the student union councillors agreed on there, but we'll see whether it gets to that point.
Okay, I hope that satisfied your question there, Stephen. Does anyone else have any questions for the SARBs during the questions and mandates section? If so, and we have one from Caitlin Halfacre. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, you may ask a question to the sabbatical officers.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great,
fine.
thanks very much. I just want to ask, so we've been hearing a fair amount about NUSU kind of campaigning and negotiating with these various committees and the education resilience framework and so on behalf of students. And I'm just wondering, when we say on behalf, what are we looking for when we're looking for the best for students? So for example, if we're thinking about teaching, what's best for a student? Is it best for a student to be on campus socially distanced in an environment where they may or might not feel safe? Is it best for a student to know for sure that they're going to be off campus all year, and actually if that needs to happen, that's the right thing? And I'm just wondering, what do we mean when we're saying on behalf of students? What have been the kind of discussions and decisions around that when going into these negotiations? Thank you.
Take it away, any of the
Sorry, we're just trying to decide who is going to take that one. So
no problem.
yeah, it is a really complicated issue because there's 28,000 students and not everyone agrees. Some people would prefer more present in-person teaching. Some people would prefer, like you say, kind of to know what's happening and know whether they can study remotely for the entire year. This obviously makes kind of negotiating in committees difficult, but we're always led by students. So a lot of our kind of stance in meetings comes directly from student feedback we've had through email, through previous meetings, and we strive to, speak to students as much as possible. And it's particularly difficult with the thing about teaching is what might work for undergraduates might not work for postgraduates, and for postgraduate students who teach, because I definitely recognise that at the end of the day, if the university does more present in-person teaching, we know that it will be postgraduate research students who lead seminars who will be expected to come in before higher paid, more secure academics. So I'm definitely very mindful of that personally in my conversations with the committees. So we try and represent students in as much as we can through what has been told to us. If anyone has any particular views on this, we do run kind of quite regular opportunities to give feedback. I know that Sian will be running her campaign very soon, supporting our students with opportunities to give feedback about fees and teaching and things like that. If anyone does have any particular views that you would like to be represented to the university that you think we might not be quite aware of, or you might have a very specific opinion, do feel free to get in touch with us, because we have these meetings very regularly and it really helps us to give examples. So we've been talking recently about teaching and how some students have been having a lack of synchronous activity in the timetables, and that has been made possible by students sending us anonymised timetables demonstrating that to show the university. So everything we do is very much led by student feedback and evidence from students. So it's definitely not a clear answer, and I apologise that it is a bit of a complex one, but it is a complex nature. But like I said, if anyone wants any of their opinions to be said or wants to find out what's being said in the meetings, just get in touch and we'll tell you what we can. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope that's satisfied Caitlin's question there. Unless anyone else has any more questions, if so, please raise your hand and let us know. Otherwise, we will deem those finished. So does anyone else have any questions for the sabbatical officers? Okay, I'll deal that finished. Now we have...
I do have a question, I'm sorry, but...
Oh, who's that from?
Husnain Shahid.
Hello, Husnain. Yes, do you have a question for the sabbatical
yes,
team? Okay, well, feel free to... I apologize for missing you. I didn't see your hand raised. I apologize.
It's all right, no worries. I'm just need to get an update from the subs on the SU stance on remote learning. Is the SU pushing university for remote learning, or is it encouraging for face-to-face teaching? on campus?
Does anyone else want to answer that, or shall I? Sorry, trying to decide who to speak on this one. So what exactly do you mean? Are you asking whether we are wanting completely remote teaching, or?
Exactly, like what is the students' union approaching for? Are they asking the university to go face-to-face teaching or fully remote teaching? Considering the situation, it's quite controversial at the moment, like bars and gyms and all these health clubs are open, and people are mixing at bars and restaurants, but not at the classroom. So I want to know that, yes?
Well, we are, so basically you've probably seen that the university is in tier 3, and this is tiers that are separate to the city tiers, so it's a little bit confusing, but these are set by the Department for Education, and the university talks alongside public health to decide what tier we're in, and it was deemed that we are in tier 3 now, so very minimised present-in-person teaching due to the high cases of coronavirus within the student population. Although cases are starting to decrease, there is still, there's still a lot of risks involved with being in present-in-person teaching, and we are following the university's guidance for tier 3. We are in regular discussions with the university. They're starting to think about what might come next semester. That's all I have to say on that. If any of the other subs wanted to add anything, now would be the time.
I was also going to just add that the reason that the UCU wanted to strike was because they basically felt like they were vulnerable as a cohort of staff coming into potentially contact with students, particularly some of the staff are older. So it's good that the university's kind of moved to tier 3 in that sense, because one, it avoids a strike, and two, it keeps everyone safe, because I think if the university really wanted to operate in present-in-person, 25% capacity right now, and considering the cases, it might be a bit of a health spike. So I think that's one of the reasons why we've moved to tier 3, and it's important to kind of remember the health and safety reasons for it.
Can I just add on that? We spoke about it yesterday, kind of. I think it's important to explain, like, obviously safety comes first here, but if you want to know our stance as a students' union, it comes back to what Charlotte and Sean have said before. There are 28,000 students, almost 30,000 students, and all those students have a different opinion and want something else. So in the end of the day, what we've been pushing for with everything we've done in this job is to make sure that almost all the voices are heard. Doesn't mean that we can do it for everyone, but with this and what we spoke about for international students, for example, the conversation we've had with the universities, as much as possible, try, if you feel comfortable with coming here, you're more than welcome to come here. In the moment we can do in-person teaching, we'll let you, and we're going to try as much as possible, with, as long as it's safe. If international students or any students don't feel comfortable coming here, then it's fine to do so, accommodate that, and they're fine to study at home. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you very much. So now, unless there are any more questions, I will deem the question and mandate section over. Okay, we can see no reactions, so it's not finished. Officer reports and executive committee minutes, and this is for the Athletic Union Executive, the Society Executive Committee, the Education Executive Committee, and the Media Executive Committee, the Student Life Executive Committee, Welfare Campaigns and Liberation Executive, and the University Senate report from the 23rd of September. You should have all received those, and if there are no objections, they'll be deemed passed. Does anyone have any objections? If so, please react now, and we will hear your objection. Okay, there are no objections. It's deemed passed. Right. We've now finished the business motions, and we are now on to normal motions. So the first motion, oh, sorry, we've just finished the admin. We're now moving on to the business motions. I do apologize. So business motions, so I appreciate that a lot of you may be here to council for the first time or may not remember from last year. So business motion is a motion which is usually more administrative. It just changes older rules which have been corrected by newer rulings, and it's mainly, you know, also things like spelling mistakes and other like little details here that aren't required to be voted on. You should have all received the business motions, and unless there are any objections to them, then they are deemed passed. So if there are any objections to the business motions, please raise your hand now, otherwise they'll be deemed passed. Anyone? Okay, they're deemed passed. We've now finished with the business motions. We're now on to the constitutional motions. There's only one today. This is motion 301 on the sexual misconduct and violence protocols. So if I would like to call the, I can't see, I believe it's Charlotte Bolton has proposed this. So Charlotte Bolton, you have 2 minutes to speak about this motion, and then we'll go on to questions and then a vote. So you may begin now.
Thanks. So this motion is to update some policies that were updated or brought to the council last year in May. So I'll note the things of importance, and the reason these changes have been made is to bring us more in line with how the university handles sexual misconduct cases, and on some expert legal advice we got as well. So importantly, the university and now us, what we're proposing to do is information sharing. So what this means is when a case has been concluded, the student reporter and the responder will both be informed of what the outcome is. So my internet connection is unstable. I might disappear. If I do, apologies. So basically what this means is that both students know the sanctions that's been given to each student, and they both have the right to appeal if they think that that sanction is unfair for any reason. The main other point is that if you wish to report anonymously, normally that would kind of be used for information gathering and helping inform of the bigger picture. What we're proposing is that we will investigate if it is deemed that the case is seen to be raising safeguarding issues. This is specifically for things such as if a pattern of behaviour is prevalent and the person is a position of trust within NUSU. So this might be a club or society president or an officer. And this is really important to make sure that these patterns of behaviour aren't putting other people at risk. So that's kind of the summary of what this motion proposes to change, and welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So if there are any questions, I will allow 3 questions on this motion. So if there are any questions, please make them known now through the reaction, and we will unmute you and you may ask the question. So are there any questions? Okay, it appears there are no questions. So we will now go to a vote. Oh, sorry, we won't go to a vote just yet. Yeah, we're going for people to speak for and against the motion. I do apologise. This is my first time as well. So we will now take this to a vote. I will do 2 for and 2 against. Who would like to speak for the motion? You may raise your hand if you wish to speak for the motion. This is in favour of the motion. Has she raised her hand? Okay, Dorothy, sorry, really, I can't see on it. For some reason, it's not letting me see, but Dorothy, you've raised your hand. You may speak for the motion. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, as you can see, I seconded the motion. I think the motion is really important in terms of, one, aligning more broadly with the university, because some of our systems, our reporting systems, kind of need to mesh up a little bit better. But I do also think it's really important in the change in the culture work that has been very important in terms of higher education. It's all about managing to change the culture surrounding sexual violence and sexual misconduct. And I think that this policy goes a long way within that. And I think it's also just really valuable in terms of safeguarding protections that are put in place that Charlotte was on about. I think that especially when it comes to cousin societies, elected officers, councils, things like that, people should feel safe and ready to come to those spaces. And I think if we can continue to make those spaces as welcoming as possible, then amazing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now there is someone else with their hand raised. I assume you wanted to speak for the motion.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, but we need to. Okay, that's absolutely fine. But we will have to have someone speaking against the motion first, and then we will then proceed from there. So does anyone wish to speak against the motion? If so, raise your hand and then we'll take it from there. Can you see anyone? No, no one has raised their hand. So, Endian, if you wish to speak for the motion, you may.
Okay. Yeah, so this is really good to see come to council. Actually, hadn't been aware of this before I got the email, but it's great to see this come to council because it will help NUSU fall in line better with the university provisions that came forward. When that came forward from student feedback, that's what we were pushing for the university last year, and we were really really glad when that came through as one of the resolutions of their legal counsel. So this would definitely be a step forward in terms of making everything a bit more unified, making the report and support process as easy as possible and as clear as possible for students, so that in any case they know what's going to happen when they choose to report through the university. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, finally, would anyone wish to speak against the motion for the second time? Okay, it appears as though no one wishes to speak against the motion, so we'll now put it towards a vote. You should have all received the OMBIA information. However, if you haven't received the OMBIA information, that's absolutely fine. Please message NUSU IT as soon as possible, as in right now. If you have the right to vote on this council and yet have not received your invitation to vote, as otherwise you will not be able to participate in the vote on OMBIA, because you should have received the OMBIA login and password and all sorts. So I've just been told then that if you are having trouble during the voting session as well, please raise your hand, and we will not close the vote until your problem has been dealt with. So just to repeat that, if you haven't received your OMBIA information, please message NUSU IT now. And if you have a problem during the vote, has the vote been opened yet? Okay, well, after the vote is opened, if you do have a question, please raise your hand. And we have one raised hand from Elizabeth Mead. Do you have a problem, Elizabeth? Is everything okay?
No, I just didn't realize that the vote hadn't been opened yet.
That's
all.
okay, don't worry. No problem whatsoever. Yeah, the voting will be open shortly once I announce it. Okay, the vote is now open. If you have any problems during the vote, as I say, please raise your hand, and we will allow you to relog back in and try again, and we won't close the vote until then. So it's 30 seconds. I'm just being told to ask, so far there have been 47 votes, 48 votes. That means that there are still 5 people who haven't voted. You don't have to vote, it's not compulsory. Okay. Well, as I say, there are still a few of you who haven't voted yet, but if you are ready for us to close the vote, then we will close the vote. So are there any raised hands very quickly? Any raised hands? No. Close the vote. And that has passed with no votes against. That's 100% pass. So I deem the motion 301 on sexual misconduct to have passed. Okay. let's move on. We have now finished with the constitutional motions, which require a 2/3 majority to pass. We're now on to normal motions, and there's only one, and a normal motion only requires a simple majority, that's a 1/2 majority, to pass. So motion 401 is to mandate NUSU education officer to lobby the university to expand the scope of PEC forms to include 0-hour contracts as grounds for an extenuating circumstance. And this is, who has this been submitted by? This has been submitted by Sian Dickey. So Sian, if you would like to speak on behalf of your motion, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so this motion is just to mandate myself as education officer to be able to take the lobby to the university to include 0 contracts as a grounds for an extenuating circumstance. So as you may or may not know, a PEC form can be submitted if a student feels that they're struggling with an assignment or an exam, if something outside of their control is impacting their studies, so it may give them an extension or a board of examiners consideration. I've highlighted within the motion that 1 in 5 students work on a casual basis or have a 0 hours contract. And 0 hours contracts don't give workers the same rights as those who are on permanent contracts, and could mean that those workers have uncertainty in terms of finance due to shifts being irregular. Often workers can be asked to take on spontaneous shifts on short notice and can face losing their job if they don't take it. So I feel that in order to support students, particularly those who may be more vulnerable to taking these types of jobs during the coronavirus pandemic, this motion should be passed, so I may be able to take this democratic mandate to the university to implement this circumstance. I mean, most, if not all, of the heads of schools that I've spoken to are in favour of this motion. So, because some have already been granting PEC forms using this circumstance, so by their own discretion. So I believe that it's important that we have this formally placed into the criteria of circumstances.
Okay, thank you very much, Sian. I will allow 2 questions on this motion. So if you have a question for Sian, please raise your hand now, and you can ask a question about the motion. So are there any questions for Sian? We have 1 question from Stephen Dawes. Stephen, you can unmute yourself and ask away.
Hello. So, as I understand it, you brought this through for protection during the coronavirus thing. Because obviously, I'm just trying to understand the rationale. So you're basically you brought 0 hours contracts in as an excuse, as a valid excuse for PECs. But is that just for the coronavirus sort of time, or are you wanting that to be the new normal, as we are also fond of saying nowadays?
No, so it would be for post the pandemic as well. I was just highlighting the fact that people might be more vulnerable to take in more casual contracts as the more kind of available work at the moment during the pandemic. I'm not saying that this is directly in relation to the coronavirus and that it would be implemented for future PEC policy as well as right now.
Okay.
Okay, do you feel as that satisfied your question, Stephen? I think that's a yes. We have the second and final question coming in from Caitlin Halfacre. So Caitlin, you may now unmute yourself and ask away.
Yeah, I just wanted to check if 0 hours contracts in this context either actively included or excluded 0 hours contracts where the employer is the university. So anyone who's working for university, like on things like JobSoc, demonstrating, anything like that. Is there any thought there as to whether it's included or excluded, or does it just come under any 0 hours contract?
So I've made this with the kind of idea that it would include any 0 hour contract. So I haven't specified by what employer or anything like that. And I would push the university with this lobby to include their own employees as well.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, so those are the two questions asked. We will now proceed to speaking for and against the motion. I will allow two statements for the motion and two statements against the motion. I think we'll switch it up a little this time. So if anyone wishes to speak against the motion, please raise your hand now, and then I will pick someone to speak against the motion. No, I don't think no one's raised their hand. Absolutely fine. So now if anyone wishes to...
Chris, I think Kate Spinetto has her hand up.
Does she? Oh, no one spotted that. Oh, Kate, did you have your hand up? Thank you very much for thank you very much for bringing that to my attention, Charlotte. We didn't even see that here, so thank you.
Sorry, yes, I did. It was just a minor point against the thing. It was for against, wasn't it?
This is against, yes.
Yeah. My only issue with the motion would be that it doesn't then protect any kind of worker that has a set hour contract yet does overtime anyway, because their shift patterns are also not set in stone at all ever, especially with retail. So maybe it doesn't quite protect everyone in the same way, and it'd be quite unfair to give some students with their jobs this special extra, but not all of them. That's just it. It's just a minor point.
Cyan, would you like to respond to that, or perhaps suggest an amendment to the motion if you felt it was necessary?
Well, my name's Sean, firstly, but also, I would be happy to make an amendment if you believe that there could be scope for that. I went personally with 0-hour contracts directly because in PEC policy, it actually states that if there's a known financial or employee responsibility, so not responsibility, I've used the wrong word, but it's within the motion. So that's the reason why I went for 0-hour/casual contracts in general. But if you'd like to make an amendment to that and include what you're discussing, then go ahead. I guess I don't know how we're doing amendments, Chris. So if you want to do that, you can do it.
First of all, I sincerely apologise for mispronouncing your name. That's on me. I am a big idiot. I do that quite a lot. Are we able to make amendments during this session now? Well, I feel as though it's I feel as though I don't feel as though it's a very substantial change, and I think it's quite. I would allow this change. Okay, Kate, could you please just quickly write up that procedural change and send it to Kay, and then does it need to go to Kay or Angela, or just to everyone? Just send it to everyone in the chat, and then we'll add it, and then we will proceed to the voting.
Thank you both.
Okay, whilst that's happening, so whilst Kate is writing this amendment and whilst it's being added to the motion, we are now moving on to someone to speak for the motion. So if anyone would like to speak for the motion, please raise your hand now. So we have a hand raised by Nadia, the Welfare and Equality Officer. So Nadia, if you would like to unmute yourself, feel free to speak on the motion.
Perfect. Yeah. So I just think it's really, really important, especially when it's so difficult to find work at the moment. And a lot of people will be relying on 0-hour contract jobs in order to be able to live. Therefore, it's obviously beneficial that you can use this as a reason as to why you can't hand something in or why you might need an extension. So I'm really in favour of this, and I think it's really important for people's mental health as well.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Are there any others who wish to speak against the motion? If so, please raise your hand. But we have one from Elias Al-Dahan. So Elias, if you would like to speak against the motion, you may now unmute yourself.
Can I just ask a question? I'm not really speaking against it. Is that okay?
Well, questions were earlier, I'm afraid.
Is all right? Or...
Unfortunately, questions have already passed. Unless it's a question on the amendment proposed by Kate, I don't really think it would be fair to allow it during the speaking for and against time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we still are waiting for the amendment. Kate, can you confirm? Are you still sending the amendment? Okay, that's still being sent. Can I have one more person to speak for the motion, if you please? If you would like to speak for the motion, please raise your hand. Yeah, that's what I can do. Okay, we've had one raised hand from the postgraduate officer, Charlotte. So Charlotte, if you would like to speak for the motion, please feel free to go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I seconded the motion, so obviously I'm in support. But I think also on a personal note, I had to work about 3 or 4 jobs at the same time during my time throughout university due to not having any money in my family, etc. And I would have really benefited from something like this at times where my shifts were very unpredictable and I felt like I had to take on a long shift before a deadline because I needed money. So I think this is really helpful, particularly for working class students, but for students in general, because of course many students have many different jobs and you can't always pick and choose your hours. And I also do agree with Kate's procedural motion as well, the amendment. I think that's a really good point, that we should be pushing the university to just acknowledge that students do work in lots of different jobs and that you can't always have 100% of your attention on your studies just due to the way the world works. So yeah, fully in support of this motion and for Sean to take this forward.
Thank you very much. Now we are still waiting for the amendment to be sent through. So just to go back on what we said a second ago, now that both speaking for and against is finished, Sian, would you be happy to allow Elias to ask you a question, or do you feel as though the questions have already been sufficiently asked? It's up to you.
Yeah, if you want to ask us a question, then go ahead, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, Elias, you may ask Sian a question.
Thank you for that. So I'm just wondering, anyone with a 0-hour contract, do they need to, if they submitted a PEC for a particular assignment, do they need to demonstrate that they've had a shift during that period of time? Is there a sort of window of time that you need to have had a shift, or is it just anyone with a 0-hour contract can submit a PEC for any assignment? Yeah.
So so obviously this is just to lobby the university to include this. It's up to them to decide on what evidence is appropriate. So it'd be like any other circumstance. They dictate what is the appropriate evidence or timescale or whatever kind of goes along with the circumstance. That's decided by them because it is their policy. Like, we wouldn't be able to decide that because it's not part of a NUSU policy. This is just for me to be able to lobby them to put this in. And at the end of the day, it is up to them how they choose to take this forward. So I hope that answers your question kind of, but I wouldn't be able to say that for now until I kind of got a response from them about this.
Okay.
Just checking in. Yes, so whilst we're well, actually, Kate, how long do you reckon it's going to be till you've finished your
Sorry, I've written it. I just need to know. Sorry.
That's okay.
We've got 2 computers in the same room. Can I just know where to send it, please?
Just put it in the chat, and then once you put it in the chat, it'll go straight to the grid. If you click on the bottom of the screen, there should be a part that says participants and then chat.
Yes, yeah, I've sent it in there.
You've sent it in there. Have you seen that? They haven't seen it from you.
Oh, fair enough. It says privately. I don't know how to turn it off privately, but I've definitely sent it in. I don't know how to turn off my private.
Does it say to whom you sent it?
To cdc.union@newcastle.ac.uk.
No, that's the wrong one. You need to, I believe if you click on where it says to, if you click, the name should be in blue. If you click on the name, you can then choose who to send it to. And if your best bet is to send it to Go Council.
Okay, yeah.
Or everyone. If you send it to everyone, that would be just as fine.
Okay, I'll try and do that.
We can't send to everyone. Chat isn't
can you not send to everyone? Okay, well that makes more sense then. Okay, that makes more sense. Has she sent it in yet?
Let me just copy and paste it. Has that gone through?
Has that gone through? I do sincerely apologise to everyone. These are baby steps at the moment, and this is all very new to us. So.
Okay, I'm just going to send it to George and see what
if
happens.
You send it to if you send it to NUSU IT, I'm being told
Okay.
NUSU IT is the account to send it to. So if you can send it to them there, that should be okay.
Yep. I've just sent that to them as well.
All right. Kate says that she's now sent it. Can you please check with NUSU
In the
IT to make
chat.
sure it's gone through? Yeah, it's being checked now. Yeah, we think it's our tech on our end that's having the problem.
I see. I'll just send it to George as well then, and just.
Do you want me to read it out? So does this resolve or is it a new resolve? So I'll just read it out. Amendment to include those with contracted hours on the basis that they don't have set shift patterns and can be called into work at any given time too. So how would we fit that into the motion? So is this a new resolution, Kate, or is this to change a current resolution? Because so far there are 4 resolutions. Oh, sorry, there's 1 resolution. Do you want to add this as a second resolution, or do you want it to change the current resolution? Because you
Well,
could do
I don't actually know what the difference is. I think the one, just add it to the current resolution would be.
And is Shan okay to accept that?
Yeah, I'm totally fine to accept this amendment. I'm just not sure where this is going to fit. I know you say it's going to go in the resolves, but just to make sure that it would fit grammatically.
Well, if it was added to the resolves, I can't see the full thing, you see, because everyone's faces. I can move them. I imagine they would fit it on the end somewhere, although again, I'm not the one doing it, so I'm not entirely sure, unfortunately. And don't worry, after this vote, so after this has been amended and after the vote has been conducted, we will be having just a 10-minute comfort break if you wanted to go to the loo perhaps, or get a nice cup of tea or something. So we're having a short break once the vote is finished. We can't have a break until then, unfortunately, because someone might leave and then miss the vote and then miss the opportunity to vote on it, and that would be not very good. So yes, we're just going to wait for a little bit until this is finished, and then as soon as it is, we'll have a nice break, and then we'll be back with the elections for positions to selected to the council. Okay, Shan, if you would like to have a look at the motion, the resolution has now been changed to read, to mandate the education officer to lobby the university to expand the scope of PEC forms to include 0-hour contracts as grounds for a personal extenuating circumstance, to include those with contracted hours on the basis that they don't have set shift patterns and can be called into work at any given time too. Now, do you feel as though you want to change that slightly, or do you feel as though that works grammatically? Well, I'm just
Can we change it to where it says 0 hour contracts and then say, and those with contracted hours but have variable shifts, instead of having that sentence on the end? That it would still be the same thing, but it would just say and 0 hour contracts and contracted hours with variable shifts, because that's what you're trying to say, isn't it? But it would just be a bit more succinct.
Yeah, I think that would make it a lot more straightforward. So if we added on, so if you got rid of everything that's been written extra and just changed it to say to include 0 hours contracts and students on a full-time contract but without set shift patterns, yes?
No, don't put full time. Just say and those with contracted hours.
Okay.
Who have variable shifts.
Okay.
Can we send you? I'll send Kay a message if she wants. So.
Oh, she's just changing it now. Can you see on the screen? I think. And students on contract with variable shift patterns.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if we get rid of everything else, yeah, so everything after that full stop can be gotten rid of. Okay, and I am willing to accept that change, and so is Sean. That's wonderful. So that amendment has now been made. Okay, now we are finally able to open up voting on this motion. So it is the same on beer as before. Voting is now open. So cast your votes now, and then we will let you know as soon as it's finished. Yes. Okay, voting is now closed, and that is an 80 to 20, which means that the vote has now passed. So motion 401 has now passed. Okay, we are now going to take, as promised, a nice 10-minute comfort break. So you'll be back here at 1846. So please be back by 1846, and that is when we will restart council. So please feel free to pop to the loo, or perhaps get a nice cup of tea, or maybe a hot cup of hot chocolate or something. And we will see you again at 1846. Hello there, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed your rest break. We've had a few messages from people who said that they didn't get the opportunity to nominate themselves for open places at the start, and for that we do sincerely apologise. So the 8 open places have now been contested by more than 8 people. So if you would like to nominate yourself for an open place, please send a message. Who did I have to send a message to? Please send your nomination to NUSU IT, and then they will deal with it from there. And those original 8 people who had already nominated themselves are already considered in the running for them. Elizabeth, I have seen your raised and I'll come to you in a moment. Those 8 people who nominate themselves are still considered in the running, and all but one of them already had a casual place on council. So any voting that was done by them would have been legitimate anyway. And the one who didn't was just allotted. The one who didn't was allotted a spare casual place anyway. If you would like to nominate yourself amongst those 8 people, I will just read off those 8 names again of those of you who have nominated yourself. That is Harish Qureshi, Tobias Lawrence, Kieran Cutting, Katie Smith, Caitlin Halfacre, Chloe Easterbrook, Sunil Roger, and Tim Rodaway. So if you would like to say, if you aren't one of those 8 people but would like to nominate yourself, please send a message to NUSU IT. And those people, so those names will be collated into a big list. That email will then be distributed by NUSU to those who are on council, and then you will all get a chance to vote on that. Yes, that's correct. Elizabeth Mead, you had your hand up a moment ago. Did you want to speak?
I was just going to ask about nominating myself, that's all. But
Oh,
you cleared
well,
it up, so thank you.
That's absolutely fine, no problem whatsoever. Like I say, just send your nomination to NUSU IT. Right. Okay, let's get the standing order back. So now that that's oh, Tobias, you've raised your hand. What is there any problem?
I was just wondering, those people that have already, obviously I signed up to run for an open place. I'm just wondering, because obviously it's now contested, whether we get a chance to actually speak why we would like an open place, or at least within the message of being like going around later on, if our names are on the list, if we can send a couple of words in that email, and if we have the chance to say why we would like an open place in the first place.
I'll just consult with I'll just consult with the team and find out what their view on that is. I'll be back with you. I'll give you your answer in a second. So we've been told there are actually quite a few eager beavers among you who all want your delicious open places. So that'd be far too many to go through today. So we are going to ask you to submit a few lines that will then go on the email that will then be circulated. So there's no need to speak now, but you will be given an opportunity to include a few lines in the email that goes around. Tobias, you've raised your hand again.
Would we send that to Angela, or would we send it? Who would we send it to?
Who would that be sent to? You'll be contacted individually by Angela, and then you can send the few lines to her. Is that all good?
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
Wonderful. All right. Is there anyone? Like I say, we do apologise for this. This wasn't supposed to happen. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a communication error on our end that led to that. So yes. Okay. Now, does anyone else have any questions quickly before we move on? Ooh, we have one question from Sunil Roger. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. I was just under the impression that all nominations had to be received beforehand, which is why I emailed in. So having been elected and have that returned, is that not technically in breach of the regulations?
Now, I had also assumed that was the case, but then we'd come to the decision before council that wasn't the case. Okay, so the deadline that you applied to on the email did stand as there and relevant. However, the council had also come to the decision that students were going to be able to nominate themselves during council, and obviously that there'd been a bit of a miscommunication along the way, and we've just realised this now. And also, if you were to go back to the other sections, every other role that was put forward after the open places, we did give the opportunity for students to apply for those roles if they wanted to during council, and some of those roles were applied for during council. So we've realised now that it was unfair to have kept the open places closed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just was a bit surprised that no one had sort of raised this at the time when they were mentioned at the beginning. But yeah, and I had to rush to get my nomination in because of other commitments I was doing, and so I just feel a little bit like, oh, you know.
Yeah, well, we were all very surprised as well. I can tell you that for now. But yeah, as long as it's all we do apologise for any confusion caused, and yes, unfortunately that call was out of our hands. Now, are there any more questions? Harris, I saw that you had a raised hand a minute ago. Do you still have that raised hand now?
Yeah, it was just a second Sunel's point, because from the comms that I received, it seemed pretty clear there was a deadline for those roles.
Yeah, as I say, we have. It's been decided that that's how it's going to go. So I'm afraid that's how it's going to go. That wasn't my decision. That came from the council. Rachel Hart, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, sorry, I might have missed it. Can I just ask who's made that decision to allow the nominations to have been reopened?
That was made by the council, although I'm not specifically sure if there's one individual. Do we have an individual who made that call, or
which members of the council?
I'm trying to ascertain that information now. If you just, do we know who did that? Okay.
Is he just mute? Yeah.
Surely the council is everyone who is currently in this call
Harris,
right
you're
now.
not permitted to speak if you haven't been given the opportunity to. Hello, everyone. We apologise for the break there. We're going to have a vote now on Ombia on whether the council feels as though more people should be allowed to apply for the open places. So rev up your Ombias, because we're going to come to this decision as a group, because there's now quite a lot of confusion and disarray amongst all of us here at the council, and we do sincerely apologise for that. So, Tobias, you've raised your hand. What's up?
Can we have a for and against, like we do with other questions that come to council? Just if it's just one or two, like, just to make it fair.
I will give one for and one against, just because we are now running along for time. So would anyone like to speak against giving members a vote? So Tobias, you nominating yourself for that?
I want to nominate myself. I'm a bit confused by the way the question was phrased, but I want to nominate, say why people shouldn't be able to apply for an open place once they've already submitted.
So you may now speak on why you feel as though students should be allowed to vote on this.
Well, quite honestly, I think if 8 places people have said interest in being on that place before council, and taken that time to obviously submit, or at least inform the appropriate people through the email and followed the deadlines, then surely people shouldn't be able to then jump on the back of it to apply to it, unless there was another, say, open place out of the 8 available. So if not 8 people ran, then obviously there's another place that people could contest, so people freely can go join.
Okay. Now, is there anyone who wishes to speak against? Who wishes to speak for the opening of the open places vote? Stephen, you're the first one up, so it goes to you.
Hello. Sorry, my camera appears to have packed in. Yeah, so I never saw the email to do with that, just due to the fact that because I'm postgraduate, I briefly lost access to my email account. And so I'm looking in my inbox now, I don't have any emails from council regarding that. Also, it's always been, if memory serves, that you nominate yourself at the first council for permanent council places. That was the case last year, I believe, when I was chair. Also, as you pointed out in that section, we did ask for nominations for every single role, apart from the first one, which I suspect was just because it was the first one and it was easy to forget. If that's the case, then surely, if the opposition is right, then surely we should overturn the decision of council on the environment and ethics rep, and the other position are elected as well, and we should bin them all off till next council. In which case, I think it would just be easier to have an email voting ballot alongside the rest of committee elections, which are about to be held in the next section anyway. If we just include this election along with all the ones that are on screen currently, surely that would be a much quicker and easier solution to all this. Cheers.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, as I said at the start, we're going to have 1 for and 1 against. We've now heard 1 for and 1 against, so we're now going to go towards the vote as to whether we are going to open up, open place nominations and votes. So voting is now open. Okay, that's come back with a no. So unfortunately, we will not be opening. We will not be opening the open places to a vote. So the current 8. So the current 8 people with voting places will keep their voting places, and anyone else who's nominated themselves will not be considered. Okay, wonderful. Let's move on to the elections for positions selected by council. So first up, we have the disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee, for those of you who are unaware, the disciplinary committee is a committee which deals with disciplinary actions taken against members of the union, and it sits when required. It doesn't sit regularly. It sits when it's required to sit. We already have 2 nominations for that, and they've come from Harris Qureshi and Luke Grange. So would anyone else like to nominate yourself for these positions? We have 12 places available and only 2. And if you would like to nominate yourself, please send that to NUSU IT. Hello, everyone. Oh, we've had just one extra last minute one. Right. So we have had 8 extra nominations, coupled with the other 2 nominations that we had from Harris Qureshi and Luke Granger. So those nominations come from Jack Train, Ashley Wilkins, Alexander Wang Evans, Miles Ogden, Elizabeth Mead. Elizabeth Mead isn't running. Oh, we do apologise. I was told that Elizabeth Mead was running, but she has decided, oh, well, she isn't running for this one. She's running for a different role. I apologise. We'll start again. Jack Train, Ashley Wilkins, Alexander Wang Evans, Miles Ogden, Elias Aldahan, Jennifer Mills, and Jack Mallinson, along with Harris Qureshi and Luke Grange, have decided to run for disciplinary committee. So nominations for that are now closed until next council. And there are 9 people, so they will all receive a position unless there are any objections. So if there are any objections to any of those people getting onto disciplinary committee, please make your objection known now by raising your hand. Okay, I don't seem to have any. Oh, and we've had 1 objection raised by 2 objections. One from Stephen Dawes and one from Lewis Telford. Can I have the objection? Do we read them out?
I did apply for that one as well.
You did apply for that one as well?
Yeah, I did. It doesn't seem to have gone through.
Oh. All right, we've just received it now, so we'll add Stephen Dawes onto that list as well.
Yeah, I also messaged NUSU.
Okay. Yeah, we've received those now with a bit of a delay, I think, with some of the things they're using. So Stephen Dawes and Lewis Telford. Okay, so that now leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That leaves us with 12, which means the positions have now all been filled. If there are any objections to these roles, please make yourself aware now. Stephen, if you raised your hand again. Oh, no, I think that was an accident. Okay, so that's 12. All nominations for the disciplinary committee have been filled, and that is deemed as filled. Wonderful. We got through one. We made it through one. We're all very pleased. So, Education Executive Committee. Would the Education Officer like to explain briefly what the Education Executive Committee does before we carry on with the nominations?
Yeah, just to not keep people here too long. It's just a chance for a feedback on key issues, to discuss university policies and future education-based campaigns that NUSU might want to run. The school rep's sitting it already, so you'll be with other students as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. So there have been 5 nominations for the 4 positions. I assume we're going to elect this via email, and all the candidates who've applied are going to send a short few lines to you, to Angela, who she will be in contact with you. So are there any more nominations now? If so, please send a message to NUSU IT. Okay, next up is Finance Committee. Finance Committee deals with well, the finances of the union, how the union spends its money and whatnot. If any student there are 2 positions that are available for Finance Committee, neither of which have been filled. So if you would like to apply for Finance Committee, please message NUSU IT now. Okay, we've had 2 nominations from Dylan Morland and Miles Ogden. So there have been no more nominations. If you have any objections to those 2 nominations, please make your objection known now. Okay, no objections have been made. Those 2 positions are deemed filled. Pardon? Oh, sorry, I thought I was being told something. Those 2 positions are now deemed filled. Okay. We're now on to Scrutiny Committee. There are 2 places available for Scrutiny Committee. 1 nomination has been received from Harris Qureshi. Scrutiny Committee deals with scrutinising the union, its elected officers, and also its employees, and all the lovely, wonderful, and smashing things like that. If you would like to nominate yourself for this role, as always, please message NUSU IT now. All right, we've had quite a few nominations for this one. We've had nominations from Rachel Hart, Alexander Wang Evans, Jack Mallinson, and Jack Train. We've also had nomination from William Hayes. However, the union has currently got to double check on whether standing liberation officers are also allowed to run for committee roles. For just for scrutiny roles in particular, so they're going to come to a decision, and then your name will either feature on the ballot, or you will receive an email telling you that you were able to feature on the ballot. So this scrutiny committee will be contested, as we've had far more than 4 people nominate themselves. Okay. And the last committee up for nominations are Welfare, Campaigns and Liberation. So would the Welfare
Steering Committee, mate.
Oh, I've gone right past it. I do apologise. Although please do not speak unless you're asked to. So we have 4 places open for the Scrutiny Committee. Those are We've had 1 nomination from Harris Qureshi. So if you would like to nominate yourself for steering committee, please send a message to NUSU IT.
Chris, should I just quickly explain what steering committee is for anyone who doesn't know?
Yes.
Or would you like to?
No, feel free to explain what steering committee is. That's no problem.
So steering committee is the committee that receives motions for council, and we meet once or twice before council to go through the motions. We decide whether they can come to council, whether there needs to be any amendments. Often these are just like spelling and grammar things. So if you're a bit of a nerd for that, it's quite interesting. Myself and Sean co-chair that one. and there's Dorothy, the president, on the committee as well as some other members. So if you want a sneak peek of what's coming to council and to have a part in that, that's the committee for you.
All right, thank you very much for that, Charlotte. We've now had all of our nominations come through. So those nominations are Harris Qureshi, Alex Wang Evans, William Hayes, Stephen Dawes, Jack Mallinson, and Jack Train. Okay, now for real this time, onto the Welfare Campaigns and Liberation role. So committee, so would the Welfare Campaigns and Liberation SAB like to take it away and explain what this is?
Yeah, of course. So you would just come to the meetings. They happen once before every council, and you can just help with ideas for campaigns. You can ask questions on other people's campaigns, and you can just generally assist in the running of campaigns. So if that sounds of interest to you, then that is the perfect committee for you.
Thank you very much. We've had a raised hand from Rachel Hart. Would you like to speak?
Hi there. Yeah, I just saw Katie was putting a hand up as well, but I don't think it was acknowledged just before that final position was spoken about.
The steering committee position?
Yeah.
Katie, had you raised your hand?
Yeah, I messaged NUSU IT to nominate myself, but I wasn't.
And did it not go through? I'm sorry. We'll add your name to the list. So Katie Smith is also running for the role. Anyone else? For this is for steering committee. Yes. Well, we weren't given the message, so we apologise. You will be added to the list, and you will be sent an email. Was there anyone else for steering committee that was missed? Okay. So this is now back to Welfare Campaigns and Liberation. Metro Kieran, you've raised your hand. Would you like to speak?
Can someone turn my webcam back on?
Apparently his webcam's been turned off. Although I don't know how I can turn it back on. Oh.
I don't really feel included.
We're going to have our IT department figure out what's gone wrong with your webcam, and then we'll have it turned back on. We apologise for that.
Cheers.
Right. Right, our nominations are now just coming in for Welfare Campaigns and Liberation, so we will tell you the names in a moment.
Oh, was they changing it on one maybe? If so, I'm the biggest idiot in the world.
Joe Melander, you are unmuted.
Oh, sorry.
Hello again, everyone. We have, so from the 3 nominations that we received nominations from Mihir Arya, Shuai Ren, Charlene Jaiswal, Harris Qureshi, and we also received nominations from Shiyu Ji, Tobias Lawrence, and Elizabeth Mead. And that means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people applying. So unless there are any objections, these will be considered passed and they will be given the role. So are there any objections to these nominations? Okay. They are deemed passed, and the remaining spare place will be filled hopefully by next council. On next council. Okay, so we now have the running for chair of scrutiny. Now, as you may know, the chair of scrutiny who was elected last year resigned. So we have now the opportunity to run for chair of scrutiny open. So far, we've received 2 nominations from Harris Qureshi and Callum Sawyers, who is running under the guise of seat von scrutiny. Now, this is a campus-wide election, unlike the other elections, which means that this election will be voted on by all students at Newcastle University over the period of a day. So this is a...
Chris?
hang on, Alex, please do not speak until I have called you to speak. I apologise. Now, as I say, this will be a university-wide election. Now, if anyone would like to nominate themselves, please send a message to NUSU IT, and they will give us the list of names of who has nominated themselves extra to run for this role. So because this is quite a serious election. That will involve the entire university and not just the council. We will give a few minutes for everyone who would like to nominate themselves to come to that decision and nominate themselves. And in that period of time as well, those who have already nominated themselves online will be given an opportunity to speak. So Harris Qureshi, if you would like the opportunity to speak now, you have 2 minutes. I will now try and unmute you. I've been told I've got to try and unmute. Can you please raise your hand so it brings you up to me, Harris?
I'm unmuted if that.
Oh, you've unmuted yourself. Okay, wonderful. All right, go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
I'm just going to get a stopwatch up for me.
I'll count you.
Hi everyone, my name's Harris. Glad to be back at council. It's been a while since I've been here last. Just give you a quick introduction of who I am for those of you who haven't met me yet. I've been part of Student Council for about 6 years, give or take. Apart from that, I've been involved in pretty much every other committee of the union you can possibly think of, which makes me kind of very well voiced on kind of top proceedings. I'll quickly go over what I'm going to do as scrutiny officer, because I'm aware of the short time limitation that we have. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to completely review the disciplinary procedure within NUSU to make it more transparent while also maintaining the appropriate level of confidentiality, also make it accessible and consolidated. Currently, NUSU has several disciplinary procedures, but they're all kind of hidden amongst several different documentation. This makes it kind of confusing for both members and governing bodies to also kind of engage in it and actually get things addressed. So yeah, I want to kind of consolidate the whole disciplinary procedure. Myself, I've had to engage with disciplinary procedures. I've had to submit complaints. I've not always felt the satisfaction of having them seen through, much like the points raised in terms of sexual misconduct earlier. It's important to make sure that people get kind of a level of response and feedback that lets them know that the issues addressed have been addressed in some fashion. Moving on to my next manifesto point. On a slightly more topical note, I want to help transparency between NUSU governance and officers and NUSU members. Often people have been expressing dissatisfaction with some parts of NUSU, but they've done so on social media and other channels. And to me, this illustrates it's not completely obvious of how members are best way for members to submit their grievances. So I'll make sure this is more transparent and obvious so that we actually get things sorted in the way which the framework is set up, and also help consolidate the framework. Finally, I'm not shy to call out officers of governing bodies. I've been spending my entire NUSU career annoying SABs, and I'll continue to do that whether or not elected. But if you elect me, then I'll be professionally allowed to annoy SABs, and I'll be happy to do that. Yeah, next 2 minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Harris. If Callum Sawyers, aka Seat von Scrutiny, wishes to speak, you now have 2 minutes.
I just wanted to echo something that Alexander Wang Evans said in his career interview yesterday. He said, scrutiny is no laughing matter. And to be honest, he's 100% right. You know, I'm no laughing matter. And I do thank him for that endorsement. I stand by all the points that I laid out on my campaign page. By electing me, you get an automatic increase in the number of seats in Student Council. I also promise to do all of the chair of scrutiny stuff once I actually figure out what that is. I'm working my way through. The most important promise is not to resign, because that might allow, I know, a guy pretending to be an inanimate object to take on a highly important role on Student Council. I also promise an extra promise when I can actually be bothered to think of one. I've still got nothing on that one. Turns out politics is quite hard. To conclude, my platform is more chairs, do a bit of work if I can figure out what it is, don't quit, and also the promise of an extra promise. I can't imagine anyone has any further questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Callum, for that. Sorry, Callum Sawyers, aka Seat von Scrutiny. Thank you very much for that. Only used 1 minute. So our next nomination comes from Alexander Wang Evans. Alex, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My points are very, very simple. I'll just run through them now. First thing I want to do is I want to introduce voting records for elected officers. I think we should be able to see what our elected officers vote for. And as I said in my interview with the Courier, being able to see how officers act is obviously different to what they may say in a campaign. I also want to make sure, perhaps, I also want to introduce a monthly, what is the most important issue for you? And I think that should be circulated widely throughout the student body so that the Students' Union can better appreciate what the needs of the student are. Also, I think the Students' Union should be criticised on the cyber attacks, and also to do, yeah, I also hope to criticise the union on cyber attacks and other such matters, such as the move to online teaching and other such things. And obviously, finally, I hope to be fearless in criticising and scrutinising whoever necessary and whenever necessary. Yeah, finish the time.
All right, thank you very much, Alex. And now we have the final nomination, which has come from Rachel Hart. So Rachel, you have 2 minutes.
Hello everyone, some of you might recognise me. I ran for postgraduate officer in the most recent set of elections. The role of scrutiny officer really interests me, as having been a student here for 5 years, going through both undergraduate and postgraduate. Up until last year, I wasn't really aware of what NUSU did, how student council was held and what it was responsible for. So as scrutiny officer, I would like to work on a campaign to make other students more aware of what NUSU is doing, what its responsibilities are and how it can help students, and also what the sabbatical officers are expected to do during their whilst they've been elected. I do like the idea of voting records. I haven't got much more to say on that at the minute, but I'm happy to work with the current SABs in order to come up with a system that makes sure that NUSU is being held to account and the sabbatical officers are being held to account, not just in council, but in their roles as a whole. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Rachel. Voting for those positions will open up at 8 o'clock tonight, and they will close at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So within half an hour they will open and they'll be closed by 2 tomorrow. So get those online campaign boots marching. That finishes council proper. However, we do now have some time for student notices. So if anyone would like to bring up a student notice, they may do so now. I've just received a question. When are Chair of Scrutiny results due to be announced? Do we have an idea on that? We're just going to find out the answer to that question there. We've also had 2 people raise their hand. Elizabeth, you raised your hand first, so you can go first.
Hello, for my student notice, I just wanted to say that since the beginning of the year, a new society has been created. It's a cybersecurity society, and we're trying to get to 15 members. I didn't start, I just joined. But the people who are running it seem to have a lot of really fun, promising ideas for this year, and are looking to get 15 people to be ratified. So if you're interested in that, it's on the society's page on NUSU. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Harris, you also had your hand raised for the student notice.
Yeah, just wanted to do a quick shout out to NUTV, who I think are hopefully still live streaming a copy of this despite some tech problems, but they put it together kind of without much delay. NUTV is kind of greatly stunted this year due to the whole COVID situation, restricting what we can and can't broadcast, but we have a huge library of 10 years of conduct. So if you remember the happier times when we can actually meet and physically interact with each other, watch our content from the last 10 years. We've got some brilliant stuff there. You can watch it on YouTube channel. Give us subscriptions, give us likes, give us some support. Cheers.
All right, thank you very much, Harris. Does anyone else have any student notices before council comes to a close? Yes. So there seems to be no more student notices, so move on. Oh, Harris, have you raised your hand again? Oh, that's okay, don't worry. Now, we seem to have no more student notices, so we're just going to quickly ask the council, because we have slightly gone over time. Does the council wish to do an open debate, or do you want to end now? Because if we have to extend the length of council, we'll have to have a vote on whether or not we can extend the guillotine. So if you wish to extend the length of council, please make yourself known now. Otherwise, council is going to end now. So if you wish to spend more time in this Zoom call with all the lovely people, you may, but obviously. Charlotte, you've raised your hand.
And we have been here a while, and I believe we have already passed the guillotine. And
yes,
I'm conscious people might want to make something of the evening. So I would propose that we don't hold the debate, but if anyone has any thoughts on this and wants to send a quick response via email or something, to feel free to send it. Myself and Sean came up with this question, so feel free to email either of us if you have any thoughts on this. If people are of the opinion they don't want to do the debate, just because I'm mindful we have been here for quite a while.
Okay, thank you very much, Charlotte. Sunil, you've also raised your hand.
Yes, just to support that and ask, would it be possible to just postpone it to the next council with Charlotte feeding back what is sent through to her and her colleague?
Charlotte certainly will be given the opportunity to feed back. However, we won't be extending the open debate till next council. Next council will have a different open debate. Although I would certainly allow Charlotte some time to give some feedback on any of the questions that she receives. So if there are no more objections, I will declare the guillotine and we will close council. So are there any final objections? Because he's ready. Charlotte, do you still have your hand up? I can't, or is that just from before?
Sorry, I'm terrible at Zoom.
Oh no, that's okay. Okay, all right, he's going down now. Thank you all very much for coming. We do apologise for the slight error at the start or during the middle there. However, we're glad that everything's been cleared up, and we look forward to seeing you all. At next council next month, and also good luck to everyone who's put themselves forward to a contested election. Okay, thank you very much.